Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, I see live. What do you see?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm like bitching at it. All right. Here we are. Me bitching at the computer. It says that we're not live streaming on LinkedIn. So, oh well. So,
No.
Good morning, Desiree. So we are live, episode number 216, Flipping Houses for Rookies. Here we
Morning,
go, Peter.
folks. Good morning, everybody.
So let's just jump right in, okay?
Go.
Why education is dangerous. Part 2, 8 major components every creative real estate deal needs. So last week was episode 215. This is 216. Okay,
Yep.
They're two separate episodes. In episode 215, we covered how the creative real estate business breaks down into 8 components. And once you know there are only 8 things to learn, it takes all the stress out of mastering success with real estate investing. And until now, this has not been done in the lucrative industry, in this lucrative industry ever before. Episode number 215 explained how the components work individually and like with one another, sort of, right? We really didn't get into that in great detail, but we did talk about it. And how you will know you've done enough in each compartment. This will allow you to not get stuck with your training so you can actually have a chance to get some big, not little, big checks without a long runway once you decide to be a creative real estate entrepreneur. You like that word, Peter? Entrepreneur.
Surely.
Episode number 215 and number 216, which is this one, could possibly be the 2 most important podcasts you could listen to in creative real estate investing. And in a very chaotic world, you need all the help you can get to pull ahead of the herd. More to the point, no more overspending on education. That is dangerous for you because it produces lack of results, stress, and disappointment. So let's get started.
Yep. Now that makes a lot of sense. I've been using it.
The 8 components?
Yeah. I work on what I have to work on, and then I find the part that I suck at.
There you go.
And I bitch at the computer, and I go, Mary, help me with this. God damn it. How do you do this part? But I mean, I think to me, that's the biggest takeaway, because people in any field can do some things. Right. But what if you can't do some things? You're screwed. Right. So if you identify the 8 parts, hope I'm not giving your podcast away. If there's a hard part in it that you suck at, just stop and just beat it up until you finally win. You won't well. If you can turn the wheel to the left, you can turn the wheel to the right, but you don't know how to use the brake, you're going to kill yourself. You got to learn all the parts of something. And you
know how President Trump talks about the pandemic being the enemy, the silent enemy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a silent enemy too.
Yeah, what's that?
It's called a dilettante.
Ooh, there's another good word.
That's my silent enemy. So go ahead, you can tell them the definition of that.
Well, it's kind of the opposite of an entrepreneur. Now, a dilettante is somebody who dabbles. They know a little bit about this. They know a little bit about that. They can talk about it. They can smile about it. They can have conversations, but they're not really good at any one thing. They're not really professional at something. They can't get it done.
Right. So my number one enemy is the dilettante, because that's what happens is I get them to come into the fold. They have reservations about paying for courses or getting coaching or getting professional help, but yet they tell me how they want to do this and how they're going to change their lives and how they're going to make $100,000, but they don't have it.
Hey, Bill, want another word?
Yeah.
Megalomaniac.
Oh boy.
I'll show you a picture. I got a book with a picture of it. You'll like it. I'll show it to you when you get home. But it's somebody who's sitting there. He's got like a booze bottle here. His beard is unshaved and he's all disheveled. He's like dreaming. Oh, I'm going to be rich someday. Ooh, but he's sitting there like, get off your butt.
Right.
Go get some bottles. Turn them in. Get some better clothes. Read a book. Oh boy.
Why would I title this podcast, Why Education is Dangerous? Let me explain simply. Here we go. Have you read a page in a book to only get to the bottom of it and realize you didn't or can't remember what you read? In other words, everything is a blank. Worst part is you didn't even know or question this. Mm-hmm. Never mind how you can do anything about it or know how to spot exactly where you went blank and stopped retaining valuable information you will need once you start trying to apply what you just read. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm talking about reading. It's more apropos to a podcast like this when you're listening to somebody or watching a video. Mm-hmm. Right? There's telltale signs like maybe you'll yawn or maybe you'll start fidgeting or maybe you'll get bored and start thinking about something else. Yeah. Those are all telltale signs that you just went past something you didn't understand and you went blank and you're not absorbing the information. You're not making it your own. You're not duplicating what it is that's being taught. Okay? Yeah. And in Sean Cloudon's book called The Power of Words, Unlock Your Ability to Do Anything, Sean explains how you can ignite your potential in any subject or activity. More to the point, how to not have blank spots or gaps in your training while trying to learn how to do something successfully. Mm-hmm. So if you're a person who buys courses, books, watches videos, or listens to audio and has done so many times, if you've done this like so many times, multiple times without any results. In other words, you're one of those, seminar junkies or you must buy and read this book. Mm-hmm. Right? So suppose you're one of those people that have bought multiple real estate courses and haven't bought a house yet, or you've read multiple books on it or listened to multiple podcasts and you haven't acted, and you're procrastinating. You must buy this book, right? And the name of the book is from Sean Cloudon. It's Clouden. Is his last name. Sean is Sean. Last name is Clouden. The Power of Words, Unlock Your Ability and Do Anything. I think it's like $13 on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here, you'll be able to stop these gaps in your education. Yeah, Desiree. I try to make my clients read it, but not all of them do. Yeah. Actually, the ones that do better, obviously.
No, it's really night and day. It's funny that you're going this way in the podcast. I got a call last night from a prospective music student. Turned out she's a school psychologist, works with the kids that are having trouble. And I try not to open my mouth, but I can't help it. And I brought this up with her. And I explained a little bit about it, and I haven't even met her yet, but I told her a little bit what's going on. Blew her away. She's like, "Oh my God, that makes so much sense," because it happens to everybody, and everybody thinks it's just normal. I just lost focus. No, something happened that you can do something about. So
well, here's what made
it important.
Here's what made me read this book.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. It was you or somebody else. I don't remember who exactly it was, but it was brought to my attention that when I was in school, because I only went through 12 grades, right? When I was in school, they told me to study. They said, study your materials. But there was no course on how to study. There was no materials on how do I study. So the idea of study is to memorize. Just memorize everything.
Yep.
And then there you go. If you memorize it all, you'll know how to do it. And later in life, I found out memorization is a shitty way to learn. Because if you don't apply it, like I was an auto mechanic. So, if I went to auto mechanic school, right, the test should be there's a broken car, make it run.
Yep.
Right. But schools they rather have you memorize the materials and then take a test. Well, how many, and it was a joke in the industry when I owned because I owned a gas station for 28 years, was actually a joke because it was a bright idea for new people that came in the industry. Well, just hire guys out of trade school. And it's like, no, you don't hire guys out of trade school because they don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
They're your worst. They're the ones that I'm talking about. They're the ones that have an education that are dangerous because they think they have an education because they have a diploma, but they couldn't fix a broken car.
Yeah.
My kids are like this. My kids, my oldest daughter spent $100,000 on her education. And she works, but not directly in the field that she learned on. How many people that have $100,000 education, Peter, that they don't work directly in the field that they were trained in?
I think it's the majority.
Yeah. Right.
Well, we got a college education. I'm educated in what? My son did computers, and that's something he applied. But he had to take Israeli history to graduate. I mean, that's fine, but what do you need that for to do computers? I mean, seriously, what's that got to do with anything?
So the undercut for success is this topic we're talking about is understanding or duplicating your materials. And duplicating means that the author has some sort of a picture, a mental concept of what it is that he did or she did, and they put it in writing. And as long as they've done a good job of painting that picture through the words, you should be able to get that same picture in your mind. You should be able to duplicate that picture or understand it. And if you do, then you could do the same thing that the trainer or the author or whoever's doing it with you.
That's right.
Unfortunately, nobody thinks of this because most people don't put a third eye on their mind. They don't qualify the information that they're absorbing. You could have a kid, a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid that's in an environment with and we'll say in the ghetto with a drug addict mother and a father that doesn't exist, and they'll absorb, because studying is also observing the environment or observing something, right? So if this kid has a bad environment, he's absorbing that, and that's his training. That's his education, and doesn't know any different. It's kind of like a fish in the water. They don't realize they're in water because it's all around them, and they just don't know any different. They're never out of water, so they don't know what it's like. There's no dichotomy. There's no opposite of what it is.
Yeah.
So when you're studying materials, you don't have that opposite. You don't think of, well, I didn't fully understand that, and until you start to understand how things are and grasp them the right way, you can't go along reading something or watching a video and saying, oh, wait a minute, my attention just wandered. What's going on? Or I just yawned. What's happening? Like, oh my God, there's, I'm not absorbing this information as much as I can. And until you get that way, it's kind of like my daddy used to say, you can't appreciate the sunshine until it rains. You can't appreciate the absorption of information until you absorb the information, and then can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why am I going on and on about this? Because this is the underlying factor that stops the success of almost every unsuccessful real estate investor. There is no other reason. this is it. Because if you really did have the passion, if you really had the necessity level, because necessity is the mother of invention, and you really, really, really wanted to do it, then, and you mean, I mean, just us alone, Peter, the amount, I was writing this podcast, and you're going to see in a few minutes, I sell information, obviously. I have a website, I sell information, I sell coaching. Basically, I've shot myself in the foot because we give away so much information for free. You know what I mean? So just listen to these podcasts and go through some of the materials. Just podcast number 215 and 216. Forget about episode 205 and 206, where we taught you how to negotiate or how to talk to your. I mean, the amount of information we give on these podcasts is ridiculous. So if you really got everything that we were talking about, or everything I'm talking about, you wouldn't need to go spend a whole bunch of money. Now, some money, yes. I mean, mentoring is just something there is not a successful person that I know, and I'm not saying that I know a lot, but there's not a success. And I'm going all the way from like to Bucky Jones, who's he won two
the Super Bowls,
right? All the way to, I have friends that are golf professionals. I have friends that are auto mechanics. My ex-brother-in-law is a genius auto mechanic. I mean, this guy, he could fix anything. He's just a genius. And not any one of them that I know, you know, real estate people, financial people, realtors. I mean, I could make a list of these people that I know. Not one of them have made it without a mentor. Every one of them had a mentor. And that's just the way it is. And they have to understand. So enough of that ranting. I didn't need to go on that long about it. So let's get into the 8 compartments of what you should know and what to do with each one.
Okay. Yeah.
So number 1 is create your real estate existence through time management.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, going back to what I was just talking about, if you fully understood those words, if you fully grasped them without any gaps, and you fully duplicated what I'm saying there, you wouldn't need me to explain what that means. Mm-hmm. You would get the importance of this.
Yep.
So, first of all, I would like to tell you that if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, if you scroll down the page, there's 2 podcasts on there. There's this podcast that has 216 episodes. And to the right of that, we have a podcast called the Boot Camp, Real Estate Boot Camp. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think
Startup Boot Camp, right?
Oh, Startup. I'm sorry, I was going to say I should have wrote it down. Right? And that's where you and I went through a series of sequences on how to actually get into this business or develop this business. Because I've got people recently telling me, especially when they're signing up for the new service I have, which is the deal hunting monthly mastery, which is where I'm going to every month take a group of people and I'm going to show them how to get more leads they know what to do with. I mean, that's the first Wednesday of every month. Okay. So it's coming soon. And honestly, I thought I was going to have more people in it. You know, maybe it's the price. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's expensive. It's $97 a month, but the amount of stuff I put about $1,500 worth of bonuses in there just for the first month. Right. So, or I mean, you get them lifetime access to them, but my point is that if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, you'll scroll down. The Startup Bootcamp has a lot of information, but in that bootcamp, if you go to series number 1, episode number 1, you and I, Pete, did a lesson called "The Art of Making Time for Real Estate." And in that podcast, which I think is only 30 minutes, we go over the details on how to make or get more time.
Yeah, we did.
Right. So the basic gist here is to not just make time, but maintain time. Right. So this compartment is about creating your real estate existence. What does that mean, existence, Peter?
Well, in this context, I think of it as being like creating something that comes into existence that's a real entity, like a business. You know, you can talk about it, but you have to create it so it lives, it breathes, it functions, it moves, it creates products.
It's a living thing. Any organization is a living thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a leader, and it has people that, you know, that it's like a ship on the ocean. It's a living thing. It's like its own little city. You know, it's got, you know, food and bathrooms and, you know, and people running the engines and people steering it and a captain and cargo. I mean, it's like there's pieces and parts, and that's what this business is. It's these 8 compartments, is like that ship where you have all these major components that come together congruently. They have to mesh with one another to work. Right?
It's a good analogy because you're trying to get from one place to another, from where you are to somebody who's successful in real estate, one place to the other. And this is the ship that gets you there. Nice analogy.
Yeah, and it's like a little city that you're building, right? So you have to constantly put that there. Right?
Yeah.
So when we use the word existence, we don't mean that you're putting it. I mean, it could be, if you're starting out, it could be putting it into existence, or it could simply mean that you have to create it every week. Otherwise, it'll disappear.
Right.
So the basic gist of this is to not just put time there, but to maintain it. See, if you put buckets or time slots in your schedule and religiously follow that schedule, you'll be creating your existence as a real estate entrepreneur, right? And eventually, by doing what needs to happen, you'll start getting checks. By using this, what Dan Kennedy, the great Dan Kennedy, calls time blocking, right? Which means you make blocks of time to do certain things, and that's all you do in those things. Like for example, we have a time block every Thursday morning from 9:30 to 11:30. All we do is this podcast. Well, what would happen if I was doing this podcast right now and my phone, I had to text somebody, or I got an email and I had to go check my email, or you know, somebody walked in the room and started having a conversation with me? How would the listeners feel with this podcast? Right?
I don't think it lasts very long.
Exactly. Right? Unless the conversations I'm having with other people are like funny or stupid or, you know, bizarre or something like that, and they're entertaining. I'm not here to entertain you. We tried that for 50 episodes and it didn't work. Okay? I'm not an entertainer. I'm here to help you make money. So I'm doing that, right? My point is that if you're not focused, and that is the second magic. You know, if anybody ever asked me, what's the couple things that I find created or keep my success in? One is duplicating material. And it's not just material. It's like duplicating the seller when they talk, right? Understanding what they said because of the words they used. And when I'm confused, I query it because I know that I have to have that picture of what they just said. Because if I don't understand it, you know, I don't know how far I can go with it.
Sure.
Now, what I do for understanding is I try to take whatever it is I learn and think of how I can apply it, and I imagine myself doing it.
Exactly.
right? So
Right.
if the seller says to me, I'm way off base here, but if the seller says to me, well, I don't, I want to do the deal, but I don't know how to get all my stuff out of the house. I immediately think to myself, well, how am I going to buy this house? How am I going to get in here? How am I going to set up my signs? And how am I going to do this? And I think to myself, how am I going to do that? Right? So right away, it sets off another set of questions that makes me think, so if I can get somebody to come in here and move you out, would that make the deal? And they'd be like, yes. So now I envision in my head, I have 4 or 5 guys that I know that could come in there with a U-Haul truck and pack everything up and put it in the truck and bring it to where she wants it or he wants it. But I'm envisioning doing that. So my education, or when I'm absorbing information, I'm immediately thinking, how can I implement it? How am I going to physically do this or physically get this done? Right? Which, if you know me, Peter, I'm not one of those kind of guys that will study and study and study. I have a limit of my study. I can only go so far because I want to go test things and try things. You know, my wife is another person. You know, she can go study for months. She can go on to courses and do things for months and like study the materials and, you know, apply it within the learning atmosphere, but not in real life. I like to do real life experiments. Right? So I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but buckets of time is how you do this. Okay,
Well,
so
like you really focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Focusing.
that's right. So
Really,
the two things are that I use time blocking so that I can implement. Right? Like, for example, when I buy a course online, if I can't implement it within the next 2 weeks, I don't buy it. Right? So I implement. The second thing that is very vital to me is the focus. Right?
But that's going to connect what you said in the very, very beginning, because you're talking about people that have all these books that they buy. Well, I'll tell you, I have music students that come with a pile of books in their hands. They say, how far did you get in the books? Page 3, page 5, page 9. You can't even get through them and into them because you can't focus because you didn't understand it. So when you're sitting there, I know you, and I had to do this yesterday, like, wait a minute, what's that? I had to just stop, and it was slow, but I was making sure I got it, because if you just keep going, what do you got? Butt kiss, you got nothing. And I know you'll just make sure you get it, and by the time you're done, you got it, and you focus on it until you're done.
Here's a rude awakening, Peter, for most of our listeners. You know how in school they grade you A, B, C, D, E, F?
Yep.
I think the grading should be on the results, not on the tests. So if you're a real estate entrepreneur, technically the amount of properties you own, the amount of offers you make, the amount of properties you own, and the amount of income you make should be your score, A, B, C, D, E, F.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, each of these compartments could have a score, right? I mean,
right.
If you've done your time management, if you put your blocking in, and if you're following the schedule, you get an A. You might not have a house bought, but you're doing that compartment, and you get.
There's no sense in talking about all this if we don't talk about being able to absorb the information and apply it.
That's right.
So in other words, education to me is synonymous with doing this.
Yeah.
Can you do it? Right.
Yeah.
So if you use this time blocking and you have the ability to do like we're talking about, then you just click along. You consistently knock home runs out of the park regularly. Right? Whenever my income dips, it's always because this compartment went out. Always. I'm going through it right now. I'm getting ready to leave Florida and go back to Connecticut, and I'm going to lock myself in my office, and I'm going to be banging phones and making deals because I need to get some money in the door. right? It's because this compartment went on. I've been gone for 7 weeks, and I'm only I mean, I work, but I'm not working. I'm used to working 10, 12, 14-hour days, and I'm working 6, 7-hour days, 8-hour days. I go visit my parents. I spend time with my sister, whatever.
Slap.
And it's not that I did a lot of work while I was here. My mother and father were very thankful for me. I've done a lot of work since I've been here.
Yeah.
Bought cars and renovated bathrooms, and oh my God, I put generators in my sister's house, and I did a lot of stuff while I was here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how do you know when this compartment is done or functionable? I don't mean done, because they're never done, because you're going to find out that we cycle through them multiple times, and we keep getting better and better, or getting more and more out of each compartment. So how do we know that this compartment is satisfied? I'm going to tell you. You will have a minimum of 10 hours per week where you and your surrounding, so you and your surrounding will know these are the times that you work on your real estate activities. For example, I'm in my sister's house, right? And she knows.
Not to touch you on Thursday morning.
Yeah, she's in the other room. When my niece is here with her boyfriend, they leave the house so I can do the podcast. When I do the meetup, it's like last night, my sister was freaking out. She's like, dinner's almost ready. Dinner's almost ready. So you could do your 7 o'clock thing. I'm like, I don't have to do it. She goes, what do you mean? I'm like, I only do that a couple times a month. Oh, okay. So she was like, like dinner and the laundry and the noise, everything is set up so that I can do these.
Mm-hmm.
And your real estate has to be the same way. So your surrounding has a lot to do with it, right? So when you can comfortably put in, and 10 hours is arbitrary. The only reason why I use 10 hours is because I like to talk about, you could do an hour a day of marketing, an hour a day talking to customers. You will make a deal within 30 days. Mm-hmm. Often, very often, if you do these things.
Yeah.
Right. So if you do that 5 days a week, then you're good. So that's why I picked the 10 hours from. And you'll know, because the 10 hours will be in your schedule, and it will be comfortable. It won't be like a chore. It won't be like an uncomfortable thing. It won't be like, after you have your dinner and you're comfortable and you're sitting in your chair, you're thinking, oh, I got to do the dishes. It won't be like that. It'll be an exciting time for you to look forward to every week. And that's how you know you got it. Okay.
Okay.
So lastly, I wanted to mention that we did, and of course I'm biased to this, but I listened to part of it the other day, and because I don't go back and listen to a lot of the podcasts, I read the transcripts. I'll breeze through transcripts, and sometimes, quite honestly, I'm amazed at the shit that we come out with. Lastly, we did a podcast on the topic, on time blocking, and it was episode number 2, and it's how to set up your schedule to do real estate consistently. So that's episode number 211. So I'm telling you that there's no books, there's nothing to buy from me. I'm telling you to go to episode 211, and I'm telling you to go to flippinghousesforrookies.com / just rookies.com. Scroll down and go to the boot camp, right?
Yeah.
And there's podcasts there. There's materials there. Okay, so there's plenty. We've done plenty on time blocking and time management and all that. If you actually duplicate it or understand it and apply it, it will work. If it's not working for you, then you need to go buy Sean Cloudon's book and find out why you're not absorbing information, because that's what the problem is. Okay?
Yeah, I think students have, as an educator, students have an error sometimes they make when things aren't going well. They blame the book, they blame the teacher, they blame things, and they can be off. Teachers and books can be off. I've seen it. But the first thing you look at is are you getting it straight? You can't change the teacher, you can't change the book. Just see if you got something cockeyed, and then fix it, and you can move right on. I had another strange thought as you were talking, if I can throw this in. You talk about people buying all these books and buying books and buying books. I'm thinking the reason they're buying books and books and books, they didn't understand the ones they already had.
Yeah.
And they're wasting time looking for some magic when the magic's in their hand, if you understand it. Get Sean's book, read it, you'll be shocked. I've talked about this to people. It blows their mind. And it'll be explained better in the book, so get it there.
I'm not trying to take Sean's information and give it to you today. We could do a whole podcast on that if you want, but we're not going to. All right, number 2, deal hunting, marketing, and pre-screening. So deal hunting and marketing are the same thing, right? This is this one activity, Peter. Listen to me closely. This one activity is the oxygen in your business. Without consistently finding and talking to new sellers of real estate, you do not have a business. You have chores and no profits. This one section, deal hunting, or AKA the marketing, is the oxygen of your business. I have taken students that have spent $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 with other people, coaching and mentoring and the courses, and they're smart. They rehearse back to me what they've learned. And all I do to them is force them with a gun and weapons to just get one piece of marketing out, or get on the phones, or get a VA to do calls. Because here's what happens. When outflow begets inflow. So if you outflow 2 new sellers, something's going to come back. And what happens is it forces these people that have done nothing to all of a sudden either have to talk to these people because they called back, or seriously confront themselves by saying, I spent all that money on that marketing, or I did the whole marketing campaign, and I'm not even calling them back. I guess it's me. So they have to look at themselves in the mirror, and they have to confront themselves. And that's all I've done. And next thing you know, they start getting deals, and they start talking to me in the coaching group. They start talking about this. They start talking about that. And it just opens the door. It's like the key to the vault. It's the oxygen of your business, right? This is where you're reaching out, looking for deals that could easily meet your real estate criteria. Now, this is important in this section because one of the things that we talk about a lot is matching your market to your message is vital. If you don't have investment capital, don't look for deals that need money. Don't go on the MLS. You know, it starts with where are you? It's kind of like fishing, right? So if you're looking for a bass, you know, don't go to the ocean. I mean, they have sea bass, but you know, if you're looking for a freshwater bass, big mouth bass, because that's what you want, why would you go to the brackish water, which is half salt and half freshwater, and try to fish in that water when the fish doesn't live in that type of environment? That's not where they live. That's not where they are. So why are you fishing there? So it's the same way with real estate. So if you're looking to do creative real estate deals on pretty houses, why are you on the MLS? That's not the place to look for those deals. Right. If you're looking to buy, you know, rent to own houses, you want to start with rent to own. Why are you going to go on the MLS? Because the MLS is run by realtors, and what do realtors want? Their commissions. How do they get their commissions? When you come to the table with all the money. So
all the money now, not 2 years down the road.
Yeah, why are you fishing there? It's the wrong place. You had the wrong bait for the wrong fish, right? So, or you have the right bait for the wrong fish, or vice versa. Okay, so it's not the place to be. So let me catch up here.
Yeah, either way, you're like that TV show, Up Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. So here's what I would like to say, Peter. This is another thing that should be completely, utterly, absolutely, totally understood and ingrained in your forehead. So when you hear the words real estate, this is the first thing that pops in your head. Okay, when you hear real estate investing, I should say. This is the first thing that should pop in your head. You look for deals that put money into that you don't put money into, you take it out of. So you're looking for real estate deals that don't need money, but will give you money.
Yeah.
That's what you need. If you have no capital and you're not looking to invest, because the word invest means you got a chunk of dough and you're trying to get return on it. And real estate is safe. Most people aren't like that. Some are, right? And by the way, if you're one of those people, you got a chunk of dough and you want to invest it, then you should send me a support ticket and I will gladly help you out. Because if I can't, my students can. If I don't have deals, my students can. You don't even need to go. You don't even need to learn how to do all this. You can just do it via one of us, right? But if you have no dough, then what you need to do is you need to look for deals that you don't have to put money into, but can take money out, right? Make sure you market to the folks that are most likely to let you take monthly payments and pay them off later. Using your buyer's money, right? There's 4 kinds of money you can use for real estate. One is the bank, and they like you to think they're the only place to go for money. They're the only ones that have money. That's what they want you to think. We're sure
there's still money there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if there really is. All they see is I give them money, but they just like type things and hand me a piece of paper with numbers on it. I'm not sure what they have anymore.
Exactly. So the bank is one, a hard money lender is 2, which is not far from a bank these days. Number 3 is a private lender, and number 4 is your buyer. So depending on your financial situation, you need to figure out who's going to pay for your deal. Once you figure out who's going to pay for your deal, you can then go look for those kind of deals. So if this is the case where you want your buyer to pay for the deal, you'll have more buyers because 81% of people looking for real estate don't qualify.
Yep.
They have money, they have a job, they qualify for payments, but they need monthly payments. So 81% of the people looking for houses, looking for real estate right now in the United States can't qualify. So imagine taking those 81%. Now, just knowing that there's 4 places to get money, and your 4th place is from the buyer. The 4 places are the bank, the hard money lender, the private money lender, and the buyer. So why not go find, and the buyer is the biggest pool of the 4 people, of the 4 types of people that you can get money from.
And also the most grateful.
Yep. And most flexible.
Right.
And most flexible. Right? So take those 81% and go find houses for them. Your message to your market. Your market is those 81% that are looking for a house that can't qualify them. That's your market. So now you need to do it backwards, or reverse engineer it. You need to go find them a house. So if you understand what those buyers want, it's easier for you to go find a house. It's easier for you to do this step, which is deal hunting. Because now you're going to stay focused on just that group of people. Now, does it mean that you're going to cast your net and you're not going to have one of those people, one of those fish come into your net, that are like a probate deal and they want all cash? Absolutely. You just need to know what to do with that. I'm going to go over that in a minute.
Okay.
So, this compartment is working when you could make 3 to 5 offers per week, electronically or in person. So your deal hunting is working when you have enough leads coming in that you can make a couple, 3, 5, whatever. You're making consistent offers per week. Your deal hunting machine is working because it's going to force you. Like today, I'm getting ready to travel tomorrow, and I have an afternoon, and the first thing I'm going to do when I get done with you, Peter, is put an offer in a 3-family house. Now, I'm not going to put an offer in. I've talked to the person 2 or 3 times. They're willing to do owner financing. At this point, he wants me to send him a letter of intent so he can go over with his accountant the actual numbers. what we're working on right now is the payment. I've already landed on the price.
Nice.
Right? He's going to do owner financing with me. The house is worth, it's a 3-family house. It's worth between 250 and 275. I'm going to pay him 300, and I'm hoping to pay, and it's taking in $2,500 a month, and I'm looking to pay him $1,200 a month principal only payments.
Nice one.
I mean, I don't have it yet, but it's forcing me to move my schedule around today to make that offer. Right? Because it's $1,000 a month. It's a multifamily. I'm not going to sell it, so that's why I'm doing it, because I want to add to my portfolio. But I think it's going to bring $800 to $1,000 a month positive cash flow.
And how much equity every month?
Well, yeah, and $1,000 or $1,200 a month in equity.
Can't go wrong with that.
It's going to make me $2,000 a month.
Yep. Some now, some later.
And he's willing to go 10 years with a balloon payment.
Good one.
Right? So see what happens. Because the deal hunting machine is going, that deal came my way and I had to pay attention to it. It keeps number one in. My existence is there because I had to keep this appointment. You following me? It's like a inertia. It just, once it gets going, the snowball keeps going down the hill, and you'll figure it out. Who on this call listening to me right now would not do a 3-family house worth 250 to 275, wouldn't pay 300,000, no money down, and make $1,000, $800 a month positive cash flow and $1,200 a month in equity? Who wouldn't do that deal? Right?
That's an awesome deal. You know, financing. But you're right. I started ramping up my machine a month ago, like 5 weeks ago, whatever it was, and 1 call a week, 2 calls a week. It just keeps increasing. I did a call last night, and when I get done this morning, I have to do an offer. We have some new systems to do that, use some new technologies, some computerization to do that. The offer really nice, which I haven't used yet, but now I'm going to be using it. So I had to sit down yesterday and study up how to do it and do a dummy run so I can do it today. It forces me to do the part that I don't know, maybe don't understand too well, but got to figure it out until I know it. And it's just like second nature eventually. But it makes me do the step that I'm weak on, so that I can keep every piece moving and moving and moving together. So I get my next property done.
Right.
And it's hard not to call somebody when they're like texting you like, hey, you call me back about the house. Like, yes, call them.
Right.
Duh.
All right. So number 2 is deal hunting. We're talking about right now in the bucket. So if you go to the boot camp at flippinghousesforrookies.com, right? Season number 2 in this boot camp, right, has all the data you need to understand in full how to do some deal hunting. So I'm not leaving you dry here because we only have so much time in this podcast to cover a lot of information. But if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, scroll down the page, you'll see the startup boot camp. I think it's purple. You'll see the startup boot camp, and go in that little box and look for season number 2 in that boot camp, and you'll see a few episodes there about deal hunting. Okay. Not to mention the first week of every month, the first Wednesday of every month, I've started a new coaching group just about deal hunting, because exactly what I'm talking about, it's the oxygen of the business. So I started a inexpensive coaching group that you can get involved in. Okay. And if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/monthly mastery, you'll find it /monthly mastery. Right. In this component, the most people, well, actually, let me back up. So we got that. We're done. We're going to move on to, because because what we're talking about brings me up to number 3, which is generating creative deal structures using available resources.
Yes.
Okay, because what I did is I ended off by saying that number 2, your deal hunting machine, you know it's in when you start making 2 or 3 offers a week. Because it'll force you to respond. Like you said, when people are texting you and say, where's the offer? It'll force you to either send the offer, or it'll make you look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? Right?
Yes, right.
Which brings us into bucket number 3, or component number 3, generating creative deal structuring using available resources. Here is the component that most spend years trying to learn and get paralysis of analysis, procrastination, and become seminar junkies in this bucket. When actually, it is what I spoke of in the beginning of the podcast. It's just misunderstandings. Right? Truth is this: why anyone listening wouldn't do just slot deals and lease option deals, and maybe a subject to if they fell in their lap. These are the easiest deals to learn. And once you get used to them, they're the simplest. You do 1 or 2 of them, they're the simplest. Not only that, but if you screw them up, your sellers won't get mad. Because they'll just let you fix it and carry on. Does that make sense?
If you screw up, you can fix it.
Right.
What kind of screw up?
So if you do something wrong, or if you make a mistake, or anything, yeah, you could still fix the deal. If you don't, then really, what did you lose?
Yeah,
so just money.
So just some of the details as you're making arrangements, and just all the little steps that go into it.
Yeah.
No big deal.
The seller will be more vulnerable to your newness, or your what is the word I want?
Being a novice.
Yeah, immaturity on doing deals. Right?
Inexperienced.
Yeah. You know, I mean, usually somebody that has a house that they're renting, or a property they're renting, they're usually doing it themselves. So if you come along and help them, it's a bonus to them anyways.
Yeah.
So if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world, because you're just helping them. And if you're doing everything that we teach you, and you're like really talking to them and really in communication with them, they'll become friends. You know, I have a guy that I lease three buildings from, and I talk to him a couple times a month. Not about the buildings. We became friends.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so truth is, why anyone listening wouldn't do a slot deal, lease option deal, and just get going. So here's the point. These are not hard deals to learn, right? You learn how to do these deals so you can do them quickly and easily, and then you keep learning and do the bigger deals when you're ready. Don't try to learn how to do a subject to deal or owner finance deal unless it falls in your lap and it forces you to do it. But until then, if you're doing what I'm telling you with your marketing, and you're fishing with the right bait in the right place, then you'll find rent to own sellers, right? And do a few of those deals so you could get through the transaction a few times and feel good about it. Then step up and say, okay, I'm going to see if I can do a subject to deal or a rehab or something like that. If your marketing finds these deals by accident, you're not ready for them, right? Suppose you're looking to do a rent to own and you find a probate deal. We'll pass it along to somebody like me and just make them pay you for it.
I think a house that needs renovation, that kind of probate, old, needs renovating.
I mean, it could be anywhere from a $500 commission to a $5,000 commission. just pass it along, depending on how tight you lock it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be just make a phone call. I know this guy, and they're looking to sell their house. I told them you're going to call them. Well, that's a $500 commission. You know, you lock it up, put it in a purchase and sales contract, and buy it for all the right numbers. It could be a $5,000 commission, right?
Yep.
So don't get nervous. Just if you end up with deals that you don't know how to do, you pass them along. All you need to do is go to a RIA group, you know, a real estate investment association group, right? Just go to a RIA group, and you can sell deals. Send the deal to me. I'll find somebody. You know, I can't always do it, but I can definitely put my feelers out. Just outflow it. God, all you got to do is put it on Facebook Marketplace, and you'll find somebody.
That's true.
You know, season 4 on the boot camp, on the startup boot camp, okay, has all you need to know about making deals or deal structuring. Okay, so there's no reason to spend a lot of time and money learning to do this, right? Let me catch up to my notes here. So you know this step is under, which by the way, you can also go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. And if you scroll, you don't even have to scroll down most of the time. There's a pretty girl there holding money up. And to the left of her is 2 boxes, which is called an opt-in, you know, where you can opt into the list. You put your name and email address in there. And I give you a free course that shows you how to do all the deal structuring. There are videos of me doing meetups and showing you how to do a slot deal, how to do an option deal, how to do a subject to deal, how to do a rehab, how to do wholesale, how to do owner financing. I do all the math. I teach you how to buy them, you know, structure them. I don't teach you how to buy them. I teach you how to structure them and how much money you're going to make if you structure them that way. It's free. It's free. You don't need any money. Okay, so.
And it's mind-blowing and eye-popping. I had to look at that. Hear you say it about 3 times before it started to sink into my head, because it's like amazing.
Yeah.
And it's not weird stuff. I talked to a new lawyer yesterday, last couple of days, by the way, and she knows all these things. It's not some weird stuff. She knows all about them.
Right.
So, but most people don't.
Right.
So there's just more opportunity.
Right. So I forgot to mention at the beginning of the podcast, I always do this, but if you scroll in the description of this podcast, there's a link there that gets you the free stuff page. And once you're on that page, you can go back to the home page and figure out where all this stuff is. So just scroll down. If you're on a phone, scroll in the description. There's a link there that will get you where all this stuff is. Okay. So how do you know this step is under control?
Putting out the offers?
No, that was on step 2. Remember, putting out the offers.
I'm saying when you put the offers out, the result of that.
So here's my perspective on it. When you can look at a deal, do the loan to value ratios, and know with ease which 3 offers you could make, then you're in good shape.
Mm.
I'm not even saying you need to know how to make those deals, but at least mathematically know the loan to value ratio, how it works, right? You'll get better at this as you go along, but in the basic elements, if you just can look at a deal and know what numbers to look at, figure out what the loan to value ratio is and how much equity they have, right? And know which deals you could propose. Not that you're going to do that, but you know what deals you could propose. Then this section is under wrap. It's not the way everybody thinks it is, where you have to memorize every single one of them and you got to know what if he says this or what if he says that. You know, one of the things that amazes me, Peter, is everybody wants to be an expert.
Sure.
I wish I could go back sometimes. I got to be careful what I wish for, but I wish I could go back sometimes and be where a lot of my listeners are, because it's easier to deal with sellers, when you say, I'm new at this, I gotta go get that answer for you. Or I don't know, I've never encountered that before, but I know someone that has. I'm gonna go talk to them and see what they say. And you'll build more credibility doing that than just giving the answer. And sometimes I do that. Sometimes in a deal, I need to think about it. I'll do exactly that. I'll be like, I'm not sure about that. I want to go check on it. I'll call you tomorrow. Right?
Well, that's more realistic. I mean, who likes a guy who has an answer for everything? You start disbelieving him after a while. Like, it can't be that easy, and you can't know everything. What are you lying to me about? What are you faking here?
Right. So that's exactly right. None of this matters, Peter. Everything that we just talked about in the last 15 minutes is null and void. It doesn't even matter anymore because we're talking about deal structuring, right?
Yeah.
We're on number 3, which is generating deals. Okay. If you just go to Flipping Houses for Rookie /virtual for $37, it's still up. I'm going to take it down soon, but for $37, you can buy my deal calculator. You can buy my 8-page letter of intent, scripts, and a 1-page lease option form. So why do you have to go learn for months and months and months how to do deal structuring when you can have me do the deal structuring for you and an Excel calculator? Because when you do that Excel calculator, and there's even videos in there to show you how to use the Excel calculator, when you do the Excel calculator, it's as if I'm making a deal for you. So what do you need to go study for? What is your problem? I don't get it. So there you go. So I'm giving you a course that has a few hours worth of training on how to do loan to value ratio, how to make the offers, all 7 offers. Plus, for $37, you can buy this pack that I have, this offer pack that I have. So what else do you need to get started? Now, I'm not saying you're going to do 100 deals a month, and I'm not saying you're going to make $1 million, or maybe you will. But I'm saying you can get started and do 1 or 2 deals and make 3, 5, 10 grand, 15 grand and get going. And then you can get some coaching and some mentoring and all that stuff. But why are you making it so difficult? Number 3. Oh, I want to go back. So it says, spending too much time on this one. It says generating creative deal structuring using available resources. So if you have someone that you can borrow money from, or know people that have IRAs or are clever about that, then you can go find the probate deals or the ugly houses, because it says using available resources. So if you have those resources and you want to do rehabs, then go do that, because you're going to generate deal structuring. You're going to generate offers or deal structuring using your available resources. So if you're a flipper and you want to rehab and renovate and sell, fix, flip, and sell, or what is it? Buy, fix, and flip. Then you have those resources, then go do that. It covers it all. Number 4, closing deals with proper paperwork using verbal agreements made. So every deal that I do starts with what? Me talking to them and saying, here's what I'm willing to do. What are you willing to do? We come to an agreement, right? It's a completed cycle of action. We started it. He was where he was at. I was where I was at. We talk about it. We talk about it. We talk about it. We come to a conclusion. End of cycle. Start of new cycle, right? Which is why they're in buckets. So number 3 was us talking to him or her about what are we going to do and what can I do? He can do this, I can do that, and we come to an agreement, a verbal agreement. So that means number 3, we came to a verbal agreement. The offer was a verbal agreement. Even if it's a letter of intent, it's still a verbal agreement. it's in writing, but it's a verbal agreement. Now what you need to do is you need to close the deal with proper paperwork using the verbal agreements that were made. So you're not going to make paperwork that isn't an agreement with what you said, which is where I've made the comment in the past. A lot of my offers, I think about the paperwork that I got to make when I'm making my agreements, because I know that sooner or later it's got to land in a contract, right? So just realize that whatever you tell them, you have to put in not in writing, because in writing is a letter of intent. Like, and think of those words. It's a letter of intent. It's a letter of what you intend to do. If they say yes, now you need to do it. And we're at that section now, which is number 4, closing deals with proper paperwork using verbal agreements. Okay? So first, in podcast number 210, we did a whole episode on that's called Paperwork We Use to Do Creative Real Estate Deals Easily. And you'll learn what the documents are to use where and when. Now, this is the stupidest thing in the world, Peter. It's like, it drives me nuts. It's like I got a gun in my right hand and I got a bullet in it and I got it to my head when I talk about this. I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette. Russian roulette means that there's one bullet in a chamber of 8 bullets, and I never know which one is going to go bang. And I keep pulling the trigger because I get so many support tickets asking me about the paperwork. Where's the paperwork? I need the paperwork. But yet when we do this episode 210, Paperwork We Use to Do Creative Real Estate Deals Easily, it's one of our lowest listened to podcasts. Like, what the F?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with that?
Well, it sounds like it's a barrier for them. So when it comes time to learning about it, it's still a barrier for them. They don't want to confront it. So that's, I'm guessing.
Maybe. I was on my coaching call the other night, and we do free conference call and Zoom together. We kind of use a couple. We use Slack. We use a couple pieces of software, right? My guy from Israel has a subject to deal. And he wanted to know the steps. I went on a 20-minute rant that was like yelling because I'm so sick and tired of hearing this crap. We went over the subject to documents, which apparently seems to be the hardest documents out of all the deals we do. Those are the hardest.
Really?
They're not the hardest. They're the most misunderstood, because when I opened the documents, and I was being such a dick, I opened the documents. It's like, people, there's 2 paragraphs on this document. You're going to tell me you can't read these 2 paragraphs and fill out these 2 blanks and do this document? Like people don't get it. It's like the simplest deal in the world to do, paperwork wise, but it's the most misunderstood. They don't understand until you do it a few times. Even you had to figure it out and do it a few times. So I laid out on the coaching call the other night, I laid out the steps of doing a subject to deal, right? Which, by the way, well, I'll get to that in a minute. You guys, oh no, it's the next thing. The hardest one is a subject to deal. And you and I explained it, the whole process, in episode number 169 of this podcast, the insider secrets on how we do subject to deal structuring. I explain all the steps, all the paperwork, I explain all that. Honestly, for a lease to own doc, just Google these documents. Like lease to own in Kentucky. And the website that you're going to come up with most is eforms.com. eforms.com. Okay? Has a lot of these documents. Now, they aren't as good as mine. And I would not make a career out of using these documents because they're basic documents. But you will get through a couple of deals and make some money so you can get more protection later on. You know, so in other words, the difference between my leases and the leases you'll find in a generic site is the amount of protection you're going to get. right? And like some of the things I talk about the leases where they do the maintenance and the repairs and the seller, the buyer's response. And language is not going to be as tight as my documents, but it could get you started. You could do a couple slot deals. You could do a couple lease option deals, at least get started. You don't need to go worry about these documents. These documents are in almost every MLS that I've ever seen across the country. Multiple listing services. The realtors have these documents. For Christ's sakes, you could go ask your realtor for a lease and an option to purchase, and they'll give you one. So again, this is just ignorance. It's just not the oxygen of your machine is not there. You don't have a fire because you have no oxygen. Mm-hmm. Your deal hunting is out, because if you actually had your deal hunting in and you actually had somebody say yes to one of your offers because you used the offer pack that I so generously give to you, it's hundreds of dollars worth of documents, for $37. You actually present them with an offer, right? Mm-hmm. You would have this problem of like how to do the documents. You would be at this step, right? So obviously there's things that you don't understand, or things that you're not doing, or something's out. One of these compartments are out.
Sounds like we'll full circle back to the beginning of the podcast, needing the Sean Plowden's book.
Right.
Because aren't people kind of scared of contracts because it's fancy lawyer lingo? Aren't they, like, before they even look at it, aren't they worried about looking at it because they think it's going to be hard? And there are some funny words in them sometimes.
I've even got that solved, Peter.
How'd you do that?
Legalguide.com.
Legal Guide. What's it got?
.com. $39 a month buys you an attorney.
Oh, okay.
If you got documents and you're worried about whether they're correct, pay the $39 to legalguide.com, send the documents in, and an attorney will review them in your state to make sure you're not doing anything wrong. Now what? Now what are you going to do? It's not me.
Find other excuses. I don't know. Keep looking.
You know you had this step done when you have a good lease to buy and lease to sell document. You have a document and you understand them. You have a good option. So you have a good lease option, because when you lease from a seller and you lease to a buyer, they're two different kinds of leases. I'm going to go over that in a minute. Okay. You also have a good option agreement. You have a good assignment, so assign deals. And you have a local purchase and sales agreement. You have those documents when you first start. That's all you need. So people want to know what documents. Well, you need a good lease to buy and a good lease to sell. Mm-hmm. You need to have an option agreement. Okay. You need to have a good assignment. So if you want to, like in a slot deal, assign it from one person to another, which, by the way, an assignment is like one paragraph or two paragraphs. And just for shits and giggles, you should have a purchase and sales agreement. That's it. Right? So hopefully you will do a few lease options or a few slot deals before you encounter a subject to deal. And then you would go buy those documents from somebody like me. Right? Or you would just get the deal set up and sell it to somebody like me and just make anywhere from $500 to $5,000 deal. Okay?
Nothing wrong with that.
Number 5, preparing the property for the buyer. This is simply prehabbing, if you're going to use ugly houses, and light work to make a pretty house prettier, as we call curb appeal. I don't need to talk much about this because the reality TV shows have done a lot of our work for us. But if you go to the flippinghousesforrookies.com and you go to the Startup Bootcamp, Season 5 covers in complete detail how to set this up. It's like, I think, 2 or 3 30-minute podcasts. Okay. So if you want to get all the details and all that stuff on how to do it, then just go to Flipping Houses for Rookies, scroll down, go to the Startup Bootcamp. Season 5 covers how to prepare the house and get it ready to sell. I mean, we go over the automated system that we use to allow people to go in the house and look at the house without us showing it to them. We don't show houses to people. And it goes over the complete system on how we do that. The signs we put in the house, the flyer pack, how we market it, the whole 9 yards. Okay.
Yeah, you really don't have to be there. Even realtors, look on the shows. They go see the house. I'll be outside when you're done. I mean, what are you going to say? This is good. The person doesn't like it. They don't like it. They like it. They like it. So you don't have to be there, and we don't have to spend your time doing it. Matter of fact, on the pretty houses, just cleaning them up a little bit, they don't have to look like the beautiful rehab houses because people are so grateful to have a house. They're happy with it. Don't worry about the house isn't like marble counters, granite. It doesn't have to be like that. I talked to a seller last night. She rented an apartment that wasn't completed, a one-room. The guy paid the whole year and finished fixing it himself.
Yep.
Oh, I'll do it. Don't worry about it. And he fixed it. It was a rental, and he fixed it up himself. Yep. Some people are like happy to do some work on their own place. Yep. It doesn't have to be showroom quality all the time. Not on me.
They wanna. They want to, sometimes it's good because they want to make it personal to them. So they want to do their own colors and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. They're happy to do it. But we got to make it so it's like livable. Water runs, toilet flushes, the heat goes on, the lights go on.
Yeah. So let's, before I move on to number 5, I need to deal with some input here from YouTube and Facebook because we're live streaming on both. So Lone Star, let me just click on it and I can put it right on. Obviously, I'm going to publicly announce this. He says, hey, Bill, I think you need to yell at me for overthinking too much and doing a lease option deal. So Lone Star, you're officially yelled at. Knock it off. You don't need to be doing this. Go ahead, Pete. You do it. Maybe he'll listen to you.
Hey, stop being a big baby. Hey, all right, I'm going to teach you something. Another friend of mine, a friend of ours, Rob, told me one day. I was having some real difficulties and was worried. And he goes, hey, what's the worst that could happen? And I told him, he says, okay, there it is. That's the worst that can happen. Now what? Keep going. What's the worst that can happen? What the worst that can happen is nothing. Do something.
Yeah, exactly. So Desiree says, you said we don't need attorneys or anything for lease options or slot deals. How does the buyer live in the house and then have the same address as the seller? So the seller doesn't live in the house. The seller has a forwarding address that usually their tax bill and everything go to where they live.
Yeah.
Which is, if you listen to some of our marketing, that's one of the ways that we actually get a list, Desiree, is we go to the city hall, we get the grand list, which is the, what's the other word? It's grand
tax
list.
Roll. Tax roll.
Tax roll. Yeah, that's another way to put it. And we get the entire tax roll for the city, and we sort the tax roll by where the tax bills are being mailed. And if they're not mailed to the address of the property, they're considered an out-of-area owner because the tax bill is mailed somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally fine doing that.
Yeah, it's like a landlord. The landlord lives in his house, but he owns properties.
Right.
So nobody thinks he lives in the properties. He's the landlord. He lives over there. It's understood.
Exactly. All right, so we're moving on to number 6, which is buyer hunting, marketing, and pre-screening. Okay.
So this must be the really hard part, huh, Bill? Hard to find buyers, right?
Yeah, so I understand now. So we're going to go back to Desiree. So Desiree is actually talking about a subject to deal, so the due on sale clause wouldn't be triggered. So Desiree, you need to go listen to episode number 169. The reason why the due on sale clause doesn't get triggered is because we put the house into a trust. Okay.
And I've made those calls to the bank, and I'm the trustee now. Please send the mail to blah, blah. And they go, thank you very much. And they do it. They don't ask questions. They don't care. It's a guy at a desk. They're totally happy. It's not a thing. They're not curious. They're not suspicious. They don't care. They're getting paid.
It looks like we're doing estate planning, and we put the property into a trust, and we have we have the seller sign the right documents. Okay, but if you go listen to episode 169, it'll explain that. And also, I forgot the other episode, the paperwork one. I think it's 211 or something like that. 210. So if you go listen to episode 210 and 169, you'll clear up with what you're talking about. Or send a support ticket, and I'll send you. All right, so number 6, because we're going to be past time today. So number 6, buyer hunting, marketing, and pre-screening. Believe it or not, this is a lot easier than most think. Educating sellers is a lot of work. It's much more work than educating buyers.
Very much.
Educating the seller on his money is safe and that everything's good and somebody's not going to, because the most unwanted thing is when people hear about renting, they don't want their property to be damaged. Mm-hmm. So the two biggest concerns a seller has is damaged property and not paying. Mm-hmm. So you have to educate your seller on this is not a rental property. This is not somebody that's going to live there for a year and then move on so they don't give a shit. This is somebody that's going to buy a property, and there's an education process. Mm-hmm. The buyer, on the other hand, has already educated himself. He wants this deal, right?
He didn't know he could do it. He's grateful. He's like, oh my God.
So they know most of them know what a rent to own is and the benefits. So you don't have to educate them a lot. Okay. So just run ads on Facebook, Craigslist, and one of my coaching clients uses Let Go. And all you have to do is say house for sale, no bank qualifying. And it will attract the right flies. Okay. This is like taking a piece of rotted steak, and putting it out in the 103 degrees. That's how much it's going to be here today. 103 degrees sun. And watching the critters attract to that piece of steak.
81% of the people looking for houses right there.
Yep.
So a lot of people show up. And I just want to say that because I've done this a number of times. And a lot of people show up. Because, I don't know if I can do this. What if nobody shows up? They show up. That's not the problem.
Right. So if you go to flippinghouses4rookies.com and you go to the Startup Bootcamp, section or season 6 covers a lot of details about this. Okay, so it's all there for you. It's been there for quite a while, a year or two. It's been there for quite a while. Just go listen to a few of those episodes. So any given point of this podcast, you feel like you have a weakness, just go, these podcasts in that Startup Bootcamp are standalone. Just go listen to the section you need help with. Mm. All right? If you have a weakness, go listen.
If you're new to the thing, through the whole thing to get the whole story. When you're in the middle of it, like a lot of us are, check the piece you need. And that's what I'm focusing on, like any weakness to get it solid, because I want to be like you, Bill.
Oh, boy. God bless you.
Hey, I smoke cigars sometimes, don't I?
Yeah, exactly. Now you do. Once you can get about 100 calls to your free recorded message and about 20 or 30 people through the house, and about 1 to 5 qualified applicants, you've gotten the results from this section. Mm-hmm. And you can move on. Okay? So I can't stress this enough. I've given you the magic formula. I've just sprinkled the pixie dust on you. Okay? Because the magic in this section is the ad that says house for sale, no bank qualifying.
Yep.
I can tell you I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on ads, on selling houses, probably hundreds of thousands, but probably tens of thousands of dollars on ads, and tested all of them. Owner financing, no money down, that word, those words are worth tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars of research for you that you don't have to do.
Mm.
And I don't even know how to emphasize that enough. It seems like it's so simple, and it seems like everybody would do that, and it seems like other gurus teach it. Well, I don't care what they teach. I know a lot of them. I know there's guys listening to me right now. You know, I know for a fact Joe McCall does, because I've seen his letters in his system. When he's teaching, he's using my letters. So I know it. I just know it. You know, I'm just underground. I don't want to be. You know, look at how I dress. I'm just like, I'm not that guy. Okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because that's what I like. And there you go. Okay. But I will tell you, this has been tested. House for sale, no bank qualifying. That will attract plenty of people for you if you do it the right place, especially if you do it on Facebook and Craigslist.
It's cheap. Yeah. It's a few signs and free ads. It's cheap. Yep. It's crazy.
Yeah, not like it used to be. It used to be expensive. But.
Yeah.
All right, number 7, closing the deal with paperwork and collecting the big check. Now, here's the interesting part that most don't even think about, Peter. Once you have your lease option agreement to buy, you know, your acquisition, you just reverse the whole thing to sell it. Right? So you're the buyer in one, and then you're the seller in another. Okay.
Sure.
The main difference between an acquisition lease and a seller lease is the ability to sublease. So if you're going to sign a lease with a seller and you're going to lease from that seller, you're going to want to have the ability to sublease the property.
Sure, because we're looking for the buyer. They'll be subleasing it from us.
Right. And it used to be I would be a lot more strict on what the seller is responsible for, like some of the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. Now I don't even care anymore. Now it's just, I don't even change that anymore. You don't have to. Okay, because the buyers will do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're acquiring a property or you're renting from someone, you want to have the ability to sublease. When you're selling, you don't want them to sublease. You don't want them to go off and sell the property to somebody else without you knowing it. Okay, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to save their $3,000, $5,000, $20,000 non-refundable deposit. So they'll tell their brother-in-law, "Yeah, why don't you move in and you could use the money?" It's the lesser of the two evils. So you end up with a headache. So they don't, and you still have to honor it. You don't allow that. You know.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
You just don't do that.
I never thought of that happening.
Yeah, well, you know, you have this components in and done once you can read and write a lease and an option agreement for a buyer. Now, in my How to Buy Real Estate Without a Loan course, which is $500, which by the way covers everything. That's the do-it-yourself course that, I mean, I can't even say enough about the course. I can't even tell you how many of those things I've sold. I can't tell you how many real estate investors I made with that course. Right?
That's a solid course.
It has videos in there with the documents that shows you how to fill out these documents. Okay. I'm going to tell you most of these documents, at least the ones I have, are written in regular layman language. Right? And they're not in legalese. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And if you just read through them and use a dictionary and know how to read because you read Sean Cloudon's book, The Power of Words, and you understand, then once you understand them, then you'll never have to do it ever again. You're set for your career. So you spend an hour or two understanding the document, but now you could do hundreds of deals like I've done. Hundreds of deals because you understand the documents. That's a good investment. Right? So, Peter, I want you to answer this question.
Yeah.
Drew Drew wants to know, is it possible to earn $100,000 by August 2021 if I start right now?
Yes. Some of the qualifications would be, are you only doing terms deals? Will you throw in a renovation or something like that as well? But yeah, of course you could.
Yeah, so it really depends on how you're set up, Drew. It depends on how many hours a week you're working. It depends if you're going to get involved with some coaching. And, like I said earlier, you're going to need a mentor, whether it's me or somebody else. It's just how it is. If you're going to do it yourself and just kind of go buy the inexpensive training or get the free stuff on YouTube or wherever from me and everybody else, I don't think it's possible. But if you're serious and you get involved, you get a mentor, you get the documents, you do your deal hunting, then yes, it is possible. I talk about Randy all the time. She was one of my first students. She was one of my first students to buy the How to Buy Real Estate Without a Loan course. That's back when we were selling it, I think, for $200 or $300 because it was a beta. It was when I first released it. She made $250,000 her first year. I just talked to her again, and she's doing about 10 or 11 houses a year. So
yeah,
that was her profit.
I want to make a point that I wouldn't shoot for, I want to make $100,000. I would shoot for, let me see if I can make something right now.
Yeah,
and then I'd make something more after that, like a statistic. When the line goes up, don't just try to go boing like in a year. Take a month, try to get something done. Take a next month, try to get more, and build gradually, logically, with some understanding of what you're doing. That's a much easier game to play. Get something done and move up from that. Set too big a target, you'll kill yourself.
John West says that got to have a team in place, which is true. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean you got to hire a bunch of people, but you got to know what lawyer to use. You got to know where to go when you need something. Mm-hmm. Desiree says, like you said last time, Bill, don't aim for the money. Find out how many deals you need, how many people you need to help. That's right, Desiree.
Good one, Desiree.
Right? That's exactly right. Okay.
Yeah, we all get in this business to make lots and lots and lots of money, but you got to realize you're helping somebody sell a house. You're helping somebody buy a house. So guess what? If you help people, maybe you make money because you're helping people.
So to kind of go off on a tangent, because we're already at our time we need to end, which we will in a few minutes. But I used to build race cars. I used to own a stock car. And just the analogy is, okay, so as you go through this, it's like you start to build the car, right? So before you can go out to the race, you got to start the engine. You got to make sure the engine runs. You got to make sure the transmission works. Then you got to make sure that it'll drive around the track before you figure out how you're going to do 125 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we're trying to tell you, Drew, is just go out there, do some deal hunting, get your feet wet. Really what it comes down to, Drew, is how much doing are you going to implement? If you're like me and you're going with your blinders on and you're just like, I need to make an offer today. I need to make an offer today. And I need to make an offer today. And you're just relentless with your doingness or your activity, then yes, you could do that in the next couple months, if you're relentless with that. But if you have a lot of noise in your environment and people tell you that it doesn't work and you don't smoke cigars, you'll never make it. Had to throw that in there.
Don't forget, there's a component too of money now, money monthly, money later.
That's right.
So, I don't know how old the fellow was there, but I'm older. So I'm looking for money now like anybody else, but I want to have some in a few years when I need to stop working or want to stop working entirely. So money's coming in. So the system has money sitting there for later on. I know some of your deals, you got some fat chunks of money coming in when they come in. That's nice. That must help you sleep at night, You got something sitting
I like
there.
the cash flow better, like that 3-family I'm talking about. I like the cash flow. The idea there's $800 or $1,000 coming in every month, so I can come to Florida for 7 weeks.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll talk in a couple of years when you fat roll that whole thing and put a big wad of money. Let's see how much you like that one too.
Exactly.
It's good both ends. That's the thing about it.
So Daryl, any thoughts on self-storage? I've not done them. I have friends that have done them. If you know how to do them, it's another business within the business. They've done very well with it. My partner and I looked into self-storage. I will give you my 2 cents on it. And my 2 cents is that if you want to have a business within a business, then you're okay. It's kind of like notice I don't talk about Airbnb too much. It's a phenomenal business. But now it's a business within the business, because now you got to go find the real estate, deal with the real estate aspect of it, and then you have to have a team running the self-storage units itself. You got to have office hours, you got to have credit cards, you got to have contracts. So there's a whole business within a business.
Sounds like a job.
Yeah, totally. So as long as you understand, just like Airbnb is the same way. You got to every day go promote these properties and make sure the units are filled. Otherwise, you don't make money. So it's it's not a type of real estate that I want to do per se, because I don't want to do that work. So I hope I answered that question.
It's enough for me to rent my properties like maybe once a year, every 2 years, but I can't imagine every week, every few days, rental. Ouch.
Yeah.
That's too much work.
All right. So episode. So number 7, which is closing the deal with paperwork and collecting the big check. We just covered that. Realize that if you go to the boot camp on flippinghousesforrookies.com, it's season 6. If you listen to episode 3, 4, and 5, it will completely cover the paperwork and, again, the system that we use to actually attract motivated sellers. Motivated buyers. I'm sorry. So you can get to the end phenomenon of this, which is, you have this component in and done once you can read and write a lease and an option agreement with your buyer. So just practice that. Go out and get a document and write one to your mother or your father or your sister or something, a dummy one. Okay? Or write it and send it to me. Find a lease somewhere and send it to me on a support ticket. I'll take a look at it. Number 8, the last compartment is rinse and repeat using systems so it doesn't stop. So here is the magic, Peter. As I alluded to earlier, the first time through, you just do the bare minimum for each component. Don't try to build a business. Just try to get a deal done. So each one of these things we're talking about, just do the bare minimum for each component. Okay? Each time you go through and complete each cycle or each deal, your skill will get stronger and stronger in each compartment, because you'll learn more and more. Right?
Isn't it true that when you do any one compartment, it helps you understand the other ones as well?
That's right.
Like when you talk to people, a little more how you should market. When you work out an offer, how you should talk to them more next time. Yes. So yeah, that's what I'm working on, just getting through the system another time and another time and another time.
Because every time you go through it, your awareness will raise, which we talked about in episode 215. Because there's four types of awareness. If you haven't listened to episode 215, which is the first part of this episode, you should listen to that, because I go through that. But the myth most have is you should know it all before you start, because you're afraid that the seller or the buyer is going to ask you a question that you don't know, when actually the true education is learning while you do.
Yep.
Right? Which is why I've completely changed my teaching style. I'm going to start taking some of the courses that I have down off of the site, because I can't trust people to train on their own. The DIY stuff. I'm going to keep up the how to buy real estate without a loan, because that's too good of a course.
It's comprehensive. It has all the parts.
Yeah.
You can't just buy a couple of pieces and then think you got something. So it's not right to do that way. It's a disservice.
To me, Peter, honest to God, this is how I feel. A lawyer would spend, I don't know, 150 grand, go to school for 6 years and have a skill. That how to buy real estate without a loan is equivalent to that in the creative real estate business. It is the only training that you need, no other training. You listen to that course, you duplicate it, you do it, you will be a creative real estate deal. And then listen to this podcast and cycle through the 8 components and just keep doing another deal and doing another deal and keep using that course to do the deals and keep doing the deal and you will be, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Education costs $500. And then eventually you'll get into the how to, the deal hunting monthly mastery, which is $97 a month, where I get on a coaching call with you guys and I go over how to find deals. I mean, we're going to do it next Wednesday night, and it's not going to be a lot of data. It's not going to be like huge amount of like things to do. It's going to be really simple. But I've got some of my coaching clients doing it. I had coaching clients that hadn't brought a deal to the coaching group in months, and they did it. And the following week, one girl this past week brought me 3 deals.
Wow.
Yep. And it was done on Facebook. She brought me 3 deals.
Nice.
Okay. So it's not, you don't need to be all complicated and have all this confusion. It's really easy, but that's what you're paying for. So you get the How to Buy Real Estate Without a Loan course. You get involved with the $97 a month coaching. And then eventually when you start getting your lead machine up and running, you get involved with the weekly coaching, which is $500 a month, and you're done. Within a certain period of time, within a year, you could probably quit your job and be running a full-time business if you do it in that order, which is why I'm changing things, because I'm tired of dinking around with all these little courses, watch this and do that. And I'm done with that. Mm-hmm. I want them to be under some sort of a mentoring, and I want to be able to talk to them. I want to be able to, FaceTime them and know what's going on and make it simple and unbug any snags. Right. So that's what we're going. So, if you just go to, flippinghousesforrookies.com/monthly mastery, I explain it all there. It's a long sales page, but I explain it all there. Okay. So there's no real confusion. And at the end of the day, don't forget about these podcasts, because there's 216 of them. We give a lot of information on these. If you are listening to us on the phone or wherever, there's a link that just go in the description of this podcast, and there's a link in there that will get you to our free stuff page, or at least get you back to our website where all the goodies are. Make sure you click on that and go back there and just check stuff out. Also, if you have a question or a support ticket, just click on that link. It'll get you back to the website, and everything you need is back there. Okay. So Peter, I'm gonna make a quick comment here.
Yes, sir.
For my own good, not yours or anybody else's. And then we're gonna get done.
Okay.
I have already decided yesterday or the day before, actually when I was writing this podcast, that my private project, in other words, when you leave me alone and I don't have other work to do, which does happen, I'm going to start writing checklists for these components.
Oh.
So in my private time, I don't know how long it'll take me, but I'm going to write checklists for each of these components. And they're going to be for you. I'm going to write checklists for you.
Oh.
So that you stop asking stupid questions.
Oh, me? Come on.
No, I'm just busting your chops. I'm just teasing you. Just being a dumbass. Anyways, the purpose of it is so that we can give them to our assistants and people that we work with, and stop having to do all this work. So
now that'll help the focus. Is it now weren't there checklists on the startup boot camp? Weren't there checklists there?
Yeah, I'm going to use some of those, but I'm going to revise. I'm going to make them easier. The startup boot camp actually has a 60-day workbook, where if you work an hour a day for 60 days, you'll have a real estate business completely up and running. And Emma and I spent months and months and months building that book, and I don't think we ever sold a handful of them. We never did anything with them. They're just in my coaching portal, and my coaching clients don't even know it's there. So
it sounds like you've kind of refined it and focused it better with the 8 compartments.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna work on it for my own business. For you and I is what I'm gonna do it, so we can start outsourcing easier. Lone Star says, these guys are funny. So, wish I had you guys by my side, Bill and Pete, and I'd be the rookie.
I could use a rookie or a rookette.
There you go.
I have one. It's called my wife.
Yeah, exactly. So, Desiree, if you just go, she wants to know where you can buy her books. If you just go to, I've only got, I think, 3 or 4 right now. If you just go to Amazon and just type in my name, William Hawthorne, you'll find them there. Or, yeah, just do that for now. All right, Peter, we're 15 minutes over what I want it to be. So we're going to knock it out. And thank everybody for being here. Thanks for all the comments in the Facebook and the YouTube. I did try to stream to LinkedIn today, but the link didn't work. That's what I was bitching about at the beginning of the podcast. So I'll go either figure that out. I think I'm going to start streaming to Twitter next week. So the idea is to get out there so more people can hear us. Okay. So thanks for being with us. Go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and click the contact us button on the top if you have any questions, and I'll answer those support tickets.
Don't forget review.
Yeah, don't forget review. Yeah. So, and go grab Sean Cloudon's book. Okay. Over and out. Thanks for being with us.